Hello everyone, I'm joined by Tree from NRG to talk about everything Stage 4. But before we get into Stage 4, I actually want to revisit Stage 3 quickly because a lot of things went really well for you in Stage 3. You got a win over Toronto in the upper bracket, but then when you met them again in the grand final, you kind of just got swept. What do you think went wrong between that upper bracket performance and the grand final performance for you guys?
I think in the upper bracket one, like we had a lot of like individual play that like got us the win, like PG, like last fight on Blizzard World, for example, just like flanking and killing too. Because I mean, like every map was close except for like the last one really, where we played like that Winston comp on like Saravasa. I think that's like a comp we're really good at. So we won that one pretty well or pretty convincingly. But then I think in the upper bracket, like I don't know, Toronto definitely like they definitely put in the work. Like they counter comped us hard in grand finals, and I think we were just too slow to adapt. So I mean, yeah, I heard from Cal that he's talking to Danny, and like they all did a VOD review after that. They weren't
Yeah.
happy with that loss. So yeah,
Just fired them up for
yeah,
revenge. And then I want to talk to you about Stage 4 as well, because Stage 4 has actually been a pretty rocky start, because you got Blast Off Buds, no problem with Blast Off Buds, which is the good news, but then you run into Fluffy Aimers, and I think this is probably the big upset from all regions this weekend. What do you think went wrong for you in that Fluffy Aimers series?
So yeah, that series was weird because I wasn't playing most of it. We were trying to do this thing. So basically, since I haven't played half the year, PG and Stitches both have like more circuit points than me, and the way that circuit points work right now is like whoever plays the most, like their circuit points count. So we were trying to do something where like it have them both play over me in like group stage, all of group stages, and then once the main event starts, we could just like sub them in. I don't know. We were just trying to get as much circuit points as possible. So I kind of wasn't watching the first two maps because I was like, oh, we got this, right? It's Fluffy Dreamland, and then I'm like making my breakfast, and I see that oh, it's we're down 1-2, and I'm like, okay, so I ran to our facility at Winthrop, hopped on, but then honestly, like, I don't know, looking back, I think that we kind of had a bad read on the meta at the time. I think it was like just like at the point where people were starting to play Orisa. We were still on the Ram May comp that everyone was playing, but like teams had just started to play Orisa, and I think we like didn't figure that out quite yet. So yeah, I mean, we were a little slow to do that. I also think that I don't know, just scrims that week just weren't the best. So I don't know, it was just bad timing, I think, with the meta and our scrims. But yeah, I mean, I'm not worried now. I think if we play him again, we'll definitely beat him. But yeah,
Because we saw a few changes come when you played in the second week of groups. We saw Attack come in and play Orisa the entire time,
yeah,
and you played every map, I think, in
yeah,
the second week of groups as well. So, are these the sort of changes we should expect from you guys going forward as well? And that Attack is kind of
yeah,
a better of the players on Orisa, and you've got like a bit more of a set lineup now from this meta.
yeah. That guy's crazy on Orisa. We played an entire scrim yesterday. He typed in our team chat in game. He's like, "Oh, I have a sore throat. I don't know if I can calm that much." So we just said, "Okay," because he doesn't calm that much already. So like when he wasn't saying a word in our scrims, just killing four a fight on Orisa in their backline, I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's normal. And then after the scrim ends, he's like, "Oh, I was muted the whole time. I didn't even realize."
He's
Yeah,
just talking to himself.
that guy's funny.
How have you found it working with Kellen and Attack then since they've come in? Because obviously a bit of a language barrier. I think Kellen has been on loads of mixed teams before, but maybe Attack not so much.
Yeah, Kellen's English is really good. It's not really been a problem with him at all. Attack's definitely like a bit like less experience in English, and like it's definitely harder to communicate with him sometimes, but he's like mechanically insane, and he's like a really aggressive player. I think that's why he's so good at like Diva and Orisa, and like he's a really good queen too. But yeah, so it's been kind of hard, but honestly, I'd say it's not that hard. If you have good enough players, I think people just mesh well in general.
And I wanted to ask you a little bit about, because obviously the new Winthrop team got announced, and it's a lot of the NRG guys playing on that as well. But one key player you also have is Infected on the lineup as well, who is cool for playing for Big Rivals Nightmare. Have there been any issues so far in terms of you share the facility, you're scrimming at the same time? You
Yeah,
know, if you
that
if you
happens.
scrim for Winthrop, you've also got to worry, like, do I say what we normally do on Blizzard World or something in case Infected knows when we play him in the OWCS?
Yeah, that has been quite a big issue recently. He's moved out actually. He's in Rack's room now at our apartment, for the remainder of stage 4, which is what we did last stage. But yeah, in like the early days of scrims and like groups and stuff, there's like a lot of screaming back and forth. We're like in scrim with them, we can just hear all their ults. They can hear all of ours. It's something. Yeah.
And then I want to get your take on the meta as well, because obviously the big talking point is Juno has come in and has basically been a perma pick in almost every region for every team, pretty much every map. What do you make of the hero so far and the impact she's had on the game?
This is like the worst meta I think I've ever played. I logged on to play ranked yesterday. I hadn't played in 2 weeks because I was like, I don't know. You log on and the practice you get is just like I'm in a Rhine mirror with Juno Brig and like I don't do any damage. But yeah, like I don't know. Juno is like I thought it couldn't get worse with Maga meta earlier this year, and then they released this character, and I feel like it's like we have one like Jotes meta a year, like Queen meta a year, and I feel like this is just the second one of the year, which is crazy. So yeah, I'm not a fan personally.
While you're not a fan personally, do you think it's a good meta for your team, as in one you can do well in?
I think it enables like a lot of individual play. Like I think especially in like the Orisa, Genji, and like the Hitscan, like it does enable a lot of playmaking, and I think that is something that's good for us. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you a bit about the DPS, because I think we've seen a lot of DPS players. We've seen maybe less Hitscan this year than we maybe ever had in Overwatch, but it feels like Hitscan's a little bit back in this meta. We see a lot of Cass, we see a lot of Ashe as well. It feels like you've been playing more of the Ashe more recently. What do you think in terms of like Nat matchup, in terms of how viable both are in the current meta?
I think honestly they're both pretty viable. I think Pharah is also pretty viable, and I think that's when you normally play the Ashe is like if the other team has a Pharah, or if honestly you're on Pharah, because it's just so much damage, especially with Orisa being played. But I think it's just very map dependent. I feel like on these close quarter maps, you kind of have to play Cass because versus Orisa, he's the only character that can just like kind of live, right? But yeah.
Yeah. And then what do you think are the most important things for a Hitscan player to do right in this meta to make a difference for their team?
Shoot their tank and live. It sounds simple, but because it is, I mean, that's really all you do.
Well, easier said than done, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I want to ask you a bit about, because it feels like for a long time in Overwatch, and it's still mostly true today, is that DPS players have one more clearly defined role. They're a Hitscan player, they're a flex DPS player. There's a few players like Proper and Stalker who live outside these, I guess, constraints. You're another player who has filled both roles for your team. Was this ever anything you consciously tried to develop when you were playing, or like learning to play the game, or did it just sort of happen?
I think it really just happened. Like Sojourn came out, and at the time, like we weren't the team I was on is Odyssey. I think Dove was my other DPS, and I think like we were just like, okay, this character's cool. Who's gonna play it? And it was like the first like ever scrims of Overwatch 2, like early beta, and like no one really knew what was happening or like what comps to play, and I just kind of picked her up well. It's a very like carry heavy hero, which is like a hero I think I'm good at. But yeah, I just and then she never got nerfed for like 2 years, so it was literally
Yeah.
all I was playing. And if you play Hitscan that long, like eventually you're gonna have to start learning some other heroes. So it just kind of happened. I don't know.
And then if we think about the bracket itself coming up, obviously because of the problems in groups, you've given yourself about as rough a start as anyone could ask for in the top 8, and you're facing Toronto in the first game. How confident do you feel going into that matchup?
I think in this meta specifically, I think anyone can beat anyone. Honestly, especially in game day if people are really playing well. So I definitely think. I mean, we did it once. I think we can do it again.
If things don't go your way in this first game day and you hit the lower bracket, obviously in this stage in particular is the most important for all teams, just because it's the final one to qualify for Stockholm. You guys are in a good position to qualify for Stockholm, but obviously it just means there's a lot of pressure on every games. How do you think you'll handle it if you do get knocked down to the lower bracket and suddenly every game kind of becomes do or die, Stockholm on the line?
Yeah, I think all we have to do is just like honestly not think about it like that, because I think I'm not positive on this, but I think I was told that if we get like fourth place, then no matter what we're gonna go. I'm not positive that that's true, but that's just what I've been told. I think there's also like ways for us to get sixth place even and still make it. But like in lower bracket, I honestly think that's when we'll turn up, especially the early games, because I don't think the teams we play are gonna be as good. And then once we get to like say the fourth place match, even we'll probably play like a Nightmare, or a TSM, or a Citrus. We even wanted to play Nightmare for a while, so I don't know. I think we will turn up, and I think we'll make finals again.
I wanted to ask you a bit about Nightmare, because both your rosters kind of grew in power at the same time, so there's been a lot made of this sort of rivalry, but we got denied it in stage 3, obviously thanks to you guys knocking Toronto down to the lower bracket. So if you were to face them in this meta right now, who do you think's the stronger of the two out of you and Nightmare?
No, us. I mean, yeah. I mean, we scrimmed him yesterday because we are at a collegiate LAN, like all last weekend, all of Winthrop. So we hadn't scrimmed in like 4 days. We had like, and then we scrimmed them, and then like it was a little iffy at the start. We were figuring out how to relearn the game and how to play the game again after taking such a long break. But then I don't know, we got it together pretty fast. I was actually impressed. So I think we'll beat them. Yeah.
And then for some of the other teams that are maybe still technically in contention, if a lot of things go right, like the TSMs for Citrus Nations, how close do you think they are to teams like you, Nightmare and Toronto?
I think honestly, I think it goes Toronto, and then like us and Nightmare are around the same, and then like TSM on a good day can like get in that group, but on a bad day they're like a lot lower. And I think same with Citrus, they're a lot lower.
And then if I had to ask you who the favourites of the tournaments, you can't say your own team because obviously you will say that if I give you the option. Who do you think's the strongest team in the region right now outside yourselves?
I mean Toronto. It is always Toronto. Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance this is, would you say, some people have been saying this is probably a worse meta for Toronto in terms of a lot of the metas we've had this year?
I think it's a worse meta for teams that are just better, because I think this is a skillless meta, to be honest. I think it's a little bit lucky sometimes with Juno and then that character. So yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Tree. I appreciate your time. Obviously, best of luck to you and the team for this weekend. Hopefully you make it to Stockholm, and I'm sure we'll all be watching.
Yeah, thank you.